most people that if you go and you find a single barrel and you get it, you love it, it's great. You probably don't understand the back end process that's to happen from a producer perspective of what do they need to go for different types of labels, that different proofs. Like it is a beast of an animal to actually go and create a single barrel program that is going to not only be in compliance, but is also going to be operationally efficient. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bourbon Pursuit, the official podcast of bourbon. I'm Kenny Coleman.
Ryan Cecil here.
Fred Minnick.
And we're going to be talking about the whiskey that everybody loves to chase. As Ryan calls it, it's the perfect product, a single barrel. Because as a single barrel, there's only one of them. There will never be another one like this. It is the only one that you have to chase after and get it. And if you don't get it, then you experience the FOMO. And that's the problem that we've all kind of faced over the years. But this is, we're going to be talking about sort of where do we see the future of single barrel programs going, especially as we saw the rise and the extreme boom of it during, probably a little bit prior to COVID, everybody had a single barrel, and then now it's contracting back a little bit. But we're going to break all this down quite a lot through this episode.
Yeah, I think this is an important episode too, because it is it's a representative profile of the enthusiasm from whiskey geeks, right? So single barrels have always been our people, the people who stand on line, the people who put their names in lotteries, who listen to the show, who read books, who read articles, who want to discover. They're on Reddit. They're everywhere. They're the heartbeat of what is this bourbon community, the people who crave knowledge. This has been what they go for. And now I would argue they're not going for it as much, the single barrel, I think. And we're going to talk about this. I think the club picks are in trouble.
Ooh, I like that's a spicy take right there, Ryan. We'll talk about club picks as we very much know the reality of what our club picks have gone to, but kind of talk about, your history, Willet Purple Tops and everything like that. And everybody chased after those for quite a bit.
So I was early in the single barrel game just because of obviously regionality being in Bardstown, but Guthrie, who owned Toddy's Liquor, had been doing them for a long time. I remember doing my first single barrel pick in probably 2009 or 10, going to Four Roses with Guthrie, and it was not a very organized process. You'd go in there.
You tell me Manny didn't have the wheel of death over there not wheel of death, but her baker's rack
or whatever.
Yeah.
And two, even like I remember going to Heaven Hill, and you'd just be in, a rick house and walking around trying to find barrels. Same with Willett and Drew. You'd go around, Drew'd have his spreadsheet on his phone, and he'd be like, let's walk around and find some stuff. And then you saw it really start to explode right after we kind of started the podcast in 2015, 2016. You started to really see it explode. And especially with, the bourbon groups and liquor stores. And it really didn't slow down till probably 2022. You kind of saw because a lot of stores just went all in on it. They were like, oh, whatever barrel they put out there, it was selling, Granted, it was during the pandemic, so people were exploring whiskeys, trying different things and single barrels. And then 2022, people realized, well, I have 10 Russells, I have 10 Elijah Craig barrel proofs, I have 10 of the, I'm done, I'm done. But I kind of saw, we've seen it too, that you got into 24 last year, people kind of started getting re-interested in them again. And then what's fascinating is, the rare character and River Roots and Short Barrel, where they're NDPs and buy these lots of barrels and do them as single barrels. And the whiskey groups have kind of moved from the legacy distilleries to these NDPs that are getting really crazy one-off single barrels from XYZ,
from all the distilleries,
from all the same
that
distilleries.
Didn't want them. They were just here.
It's because those legacy distillers are such a pain sometimes to work with.
Totally. And where NDPs can be well, come on in. We'll sell you what's ever on the truck. And then you had the buff turkey phenomenon, with single barrels here as of late. And so I've kind of seen a re-energy in interesting single barrels, but it always you look at a brand and like when they're like on fire with single barrels, it's like they have like a 3-year runway, and like where people will just go, I'm getting it from that brand, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, I have 10 or 15 of these, I can't do anymore.
Can't acquire anymore.
But then they move on to the next hot one,
Before you let's just kind of break this down a little bit, because I think what you were about to say made a really good point, was let's talk about the single barrel program, because obviously you had the big six and all of these people that kind of did it, but I don't know if they did it as willingly as they probably wanted to.
Yeah.
Right? It started off as something very unique. Bill Thomas of Jack Rose comes in and he gets a single barrel
17A BU.
Yes, and it was just the elite of the elite that would do this. And most people, that if you go and you find a single barrel and you get it, you love it, it's great. You probably don't understand the back end process that's to happen from a producer perspective of what do they need to go for, different types of labels, that different proofs. Like it is a beast of an animal to actually go and create a single barrel program that is going to not only be in compliance, but is also going to be operationally efficient. And so the rise of just distilleries doing single barrels probably wasn't until those 2014, 2016 days of when you really kind of saw a lot of them going like, okay, this is a very good potential revenue stream versus something that's just table stakes.
Well, I remember I was on the very first Four Roses pick, and they brought a bunch of media out. And that was also the time when we were able to verify that Bullet Bourbon was made at Four Roses, because Jim Rutledge left a bottle of sample out. Oh, I don't know what this is. He left a sample of Bullet.
Why'd you leave the bottle out there,
all
Jim?
those reporters were like, oh, look at this. It was funny. But I want to say this was 2008 or 9. I don't remember. It was very early. But I remember being on that, and then some years later, I'd be on a Four Roses pick, and they would bring out all 20. They'd bring out two barrels of every recipe, ranging from 8 to like 16 years old, and we would taste through them, and we'd pick them, and that would be for like the World Whiskey Award, and just so many incredible experiences early on. And it was like Bill Thomas, it was Delilah's, it was like all the major buyers from Benny's,
Julio's.
Liquor Barn, Julio's. There were so many special people that would be afforded that, access, and then they would sell to their customers. And those customers would be like the people who were, as I like to say, were the people that brought bourbon to the dance. And over time, as more people got interest in those barrel picks, the smaller retailers and smaller restaurants like Bourbon's Bistros were told, you don't sell enough of our product to get, a barrel of Four Roses or Buffalo Trace or whatever it is. And the beginning of, the heyday of these barrel picks was absolutely 2014 to 2018. I'd say around right before the pandemic, around 2019 was when they started looking at, there was a changing of the guard, right? So you started having people who really took loyalty into customer appreciation into consideration, and it just went straight to a numbers game. It's like, okay, who's selling the most of our vodka? Who's selling the most of our small batch? Whatever it is, that's who's getting 5 barrel picks versus this store over here that is much smaller. We're not going to take care of that store. But that store, that small store, was who cultivated the true customers, versus over here was just a volume game. It was a price. And so in 2019 was when I really saw people like Jason from Bourbon's Bistro just lose their shit, because they were getting cut out of like barrel allocations of things that they helped build. And that would just continue to grow and grow. And suddenly they just didn't, I think that was when we started seeing people like the goodwill of the bourbon industry kind of go away, and the people that help bring bourbon to where it was get super pissed off at the distillers. And it started with Sazerac, but it went to Jim Beam, it went to Four Roses, went to Heaven Hill.
Oh yeah,
they're all guilty of it.
it's all widespread now. But
Yeah.
I mean, can you blame them? Right? I think this is the hard part. It comes from the producer side versus the enthusiast side, and I have this sort of this
Weird
thing.
conundrum.
Yeah, it really is, because as a producer, it's like, hey, this store over here, like they're rolling through cases of your stuff. Now, you had sold a single barrel to this store a couple of years ago. What do you think? Well, right now we're in a position, it's like, cool, we'll sell them to both. But if you really have that little of inventory that you could do, I don't know. I kind of look at them like, well, this other account makes a ton more money for us versus this one that maybe we can give them 1 barrel versus one that give them 5 barrels. But, if that smaller account doesn't want to push a lot of other product, or they are getting single barrels from a lot of different places, I don't know. Maybe they just don't really care about my brand anymore.
It is tough. I mean, because they do care about it because they want your barrel pick there. But that's the challenging part. Yeah, because, you look at chains, obviously they're going to move a ton of volume. And you obviously want to reward them for that. But at the same time, you have small mom and pops that support you. And while I think the answer is kind of in the middle. Like, if you're, the way I look at it is like, if you can just carry a few of our products and move through them and do single barrel picks, I absolutely love you as a retailer. The hard part is when they're like, I only want single barrel picks.
Oh yeah, they don't even carry your shelf item.
Yeah, they won't even carry your shelf item, and that's where it gets tricky for us.
It's different,
because not every consumer is going to care about a single barrel pick. They just want something that's looks cool, tastes good, and is affordable, and that so you have to have a combination of both. But it did get kind of nasty there in that 2018, 2019, where a lot of brand builders got cut out.
Yeah, and it wasn't just it was all over the country, and we had the retailer from Nebraska on talking about it, and that's that whole show that we did with him. I don't remember what year it was, but to me it was
a while ago. I can't remember it. Yeah.
But that was like, to me, that was one of the most poignant moments of Bourbon Pursuit, was this retailer just talking about how they've been cut out of all these barrel picks, and it's all going to the chains, or completely leaving the allocation of Nebraska. And to me, like, that is the short-sightedness that created where we are now. Like now, the industry's in a downturn because the bourbon distillers did not maintain relationships that mattered beyond the case sale of a single month or a year. They began to turn their backs for the prospects of larger margins in a fiscal quarter. And that is why we're here. Because multiply that retailer in Nebraska from that interview in 2021, I believe it was, multiply that by 2,000 across the country. And that feeds into the Facebook groups. That feeds into the barbecues. That feeds into every single little thing that bourbon touched. And suddenly people just grew tired of it. You don't have to go any further than the comments of anything that we post. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the hype. I'm tired of this. Fuck you, Fred. I mean,
that's actually me. I do that all the time. Every video.
That's your burner account.
That's anonymous.
But it is, to me, that was the moment that bourbon lost its soul in a lot of ways and started moving away from the people who brought bourbon to the dance. Now, it happened in 2008 when bourbon started to grow, and the people who were at the gazebo were able to get Pappy on a regular and all that. That they got kind of shunned because the market grew. But what happened in 2018 to we'll say 2021 was that the people who were in charge were about making as absolute much money as they could for that year and not necessarily the long term of the brand.
I would agree with that.
And one of the companies that to me has always been different with that strategy has been Maker's Mark. Now, Maker's Mark, no one is looking at Maker's Mark as like saying like they're like a Buffalo Trace or Pappy with the allocation. But you don't understand. They are allocated in most major markets, and they still granted barrel picks. And their barrel picks are not flying off the shelves like everything else, but that experience is better than any barrel picking experience out there. They worked with their distributors to make sure that every customer who wanted one that met their qualifications got one. They didn't do one of those of like, well, you know what, this market only gets 3, they're all going to Total Wine. They took care of their customers. And so I don't want to hear anyone in the bourbon business say, oh, well, we got to take care of this one because they're buying as much and they're one keeping the lights on. There's a way to do it. And Maker's Mark proved how to do it. And I just think we're here now because distillers in that time frame, turn their backs on the likes of Jason Bronner from Bourbon's Bistro, from the retailer in Nebraska, and just pick any retailer story out there. That was the time frame.
I agree.
Yeah, and two, I think I think too, a lot of from an efficiency standpoint, the distilleries have kind of like almost systemized the barrel picking experience too much. And it's like, okay, you come in and you got 3, 4, you're on a...
I wanted to talk about structure.
Yeah.
Right, and how
structure's changed, and it's kind of lost like this intimacy connection with the distillery. It's more just kind of like churn and burn. How can we get people in and out as fast as we can? Which I understand you have to have efficiencies. But, when we were picking Bourbon Pursuit picks early on, I mean, there was just a more inviting, I guess.
It had a vibe.
It had a vibe. And then it just got turned into like a Disney tour or something, like that you were in line with your wristband and like you're at the 1:00 tour and you're in and out here as fast as possible.
And you were just could not wait for the tour to get over with. I mean, it was like, oh, this is a still, this is a fermenter, right? Like at this point, you're like, oh my God.
The tours are the tours. I think there'll always be tours, but I do remember, I'm not going to name names, but there was one barrel pick we went on and we had 3 barrels and 2 of them were just god awful. And it's like, did you all even attempt to try these before you presented them in front of us? And it's like, well, we have one decent one here. I think that's what we'll be choosing. And I've been through this time and time again. It's like, how much do you want to ruin a relationship by going, I don't want any of these? And it's like, can you bring out more barrels? And it's definitely like a balancing act with it. But the structure has changed. Now there are some places that haven't changed. Or should I say, you talk about Willett was probably one of the ultimate ones you could be able to go on, because you used to walk with Drew through the ricks and drill through things until you find one. And now I think he just brings samples and takes them to a different house and you just taste through samples, because that had to change.
But, and I know why they did it, because Drew always said like, you only have like 3 to 4 months that you can taste whiskey in the rick house and it tastes like it's supposed to taste. He's like, in the summer, it's too hot. The winter, it's too cold. And so even that Josh, who does their program, does an awesome job. And I mean, you'll go there and he will pull out, if you're doing a bourbon, he'll pull out 6 different barrels, few different mash bills, try to find out flavors. And he's like, if these don't meet your expectations, he's like, I have hundreds of samples in the cabinet that I can go pull out. And so while they've made it into a house and it's not as romantic as being but it's a cool ass house. It was built in like the late 1800s. They revived it.
Wasn't this the old funeral director's house or something?
No, this one's a different one. But,
okay. You have to go to like the embalming room to do your pick.
But Josh is truly passionate about making sure his customers, and granted, maybe it's just because we're friends and I have a great experience there, but everyone I talk to that goes picks a Willow Barrel, even at the new system, they still love it.
Yeah. And
let's never forget the height of the charity barrels were the Willett barrels that went for $1 million to raise money for the Kentucky tornadoes. And I always want to applaud Drew and Willett for everything they do for charity, because, kind of in this conversation are charity barrels. And to me, there's been no bigger heart than Drew and his family when it comes to donating barrels to people. Like that 19-year-old Willett went for $401 $400,001. And he was like, you know what? Let's do another barrel. So if the guy that lost out on how the dollar increment came in, I'll never know. But he's like, that guy lost out. If he'll come in and buy it, then we'll sell 2 barrels at 19 years old. And that was to help the flood victims of, that was help the tornado victims of Western Kentucky. And, I was part of that barrel pick. I was part of the package, and it was special.
Yeah, that truly was a special night. Now, let's kind of shift to what you had said at the very top of the show here about how you think club picks are doomed. And I think this is probably going to be because there's an oversaturation. I mean, it got to the point, and I'll beat my own chest for a second here. I feel that
Hold on, you got to actually do it. There you go.
Hear it through there. I feel that Bourbon Pursuit was really one of the first ones into this game. We had been kind of at the forefront of it. I'm not going to say we're the first ones because I think Blake in the Bourboner Pro, when he was actually doing single barrel picks everywhere, was kind of really one of the initial ones. But it was a lot of it it all kind of spawned from a Buffalo Trace barrel pick that we all did as a part of the roundtable and sold it to our fans. But when we realized it sold out in less than a day, we said, okay, there's something here. So how can we go and start doing single barrel picks? But it removes us out of the logistical needs of being the retailer and doing the shipping. And through the grace of the podcast, finding a retailer, always give a shout out to Keg and Bottle, who has always been there throughout the years of being a retailer. And I said, you give us your barrel picks, I'll bring you the customers. And we had a great run with it. And that was sort of the needle in the haystack moment where we were able to build one of the first media companies that did single barrel picks. And we did a lot of them, and we had an opportunity to go and visit all your majors. Then we found some smaller players, and then that boom happened. You kind of talked about, we started looking into the COVID times, and while we were doing, I think at our height, we did something like a little bit north of 50 barrel picks in a single year, 50 different barrels that we were doing. And then we started seeing the more writing on the wall where Tony wasn't able to get his connection from Four Roses to get him barrels anymore. He wasn't able to get us Elijah Craig barrel picks anymore. And it all came back into a numbers game. But at the same exact time, we started seeing a shift in the consumer behavior where they weren't buying as much. Right. And it kind of made us pull back. And now that we've got our mindset on everything Pursuit Spirits, now don't get me wrong, we still do some barrel picks every once in a while. We did one for Angel's Envy this year. We've still got some for like Wild Turkey and Four Roses, but we're very focused on really what we're going to be selecting. But I think that we are now seeing, not only because Bourbon Pursuit was one of the first ones, it set the model for everybody else to follow along with it too.
I agree with that. So club picks are essentially like if there's a group, they partner with a retailer or a distillery to sell through their gift shop, and they get exclusive access to that barrel via that retailer until it sells out. And we're talking like Rotary clubs. We're talking, whiskey clubs of regions like Arkansas, Dallas. Then you got creators, like Bourbon Pursuit, Bourbon Enthusiast, who, by the way, has had barrels stolen. I've had barrels stolen through Club Marzipan. So I've got a whiskey club called Club Marzipan where I do barrel picks. And over the years, what has happened is like everyone was starting a club. Everyone was doing barrel picks. And so there would be a period where these retailers, and there's probably 30 retailers that try to take care of Keg and Bottle's one of them. Silbox is a big one. And what would start to happen, you have people like us and Breaking Bourbon, their barrels would sell through to their club, but these other clubs would not sell out. So there would be like leftovers, or if ours didn't sell out, then Blake or Keg and Bottle could hit to his normal audience. And because there's a name associated with it, they're like, oh, okay, I trust that barrel pick, whatever it is. It's a Chattanooga whiskey pick. Fred or Kenny and Ryan picked it. Let's get it. And what started happening was these clubs that no one really didn't have any kind of like national recognition could not move. And so these retailers are starting to sit on it. So what is happening now, there's a backlog of these single barrel picks from these clubs that these retailers have taken a risk on, that they are rejecting club picks from, the mid-tier clubs, and it's beginning to get into, our zone a little bit. And it's to the point where if you are doing a barrel pick with the distillery will have to make sure that you are selling it. The retailer has agreed upon it, because what has happened is that some clubs have get into the barrel pick and they have a handshake agreement with the retailer, and then the retailer sees what the case order is going to be and how much it's going to cost. And they're like, oh, we didn't agree to a $10,000 barrel pick. We can't afford that. And so they reject the barrel. And so the distiller's like, we went through all this time, so there's been a log jam of these barrel picks, and people are not buying them. Even the clubs are not selling through like they once did. So it is, it's something that, I now have, I want to say 4 or 5 retailers that I go through based on like where their comfort level is on acquiring. With like Blake, I'll text him. I was like, hey, I got 5 barrels. Which ones do you want? So Blake always has first dibs, because he's just great to work with at Silbox, and he knows the market. And if our Club Marzipan doesn't sell through, his audience usually picks up the rest. So depending on the product.
Yeah. And but it's a tough one to kind of go through too, because, it's a good revenue route for a lot of people too. As a part of Bourbon Pursuit, we didn't make any money off the actual sale of the barrel picks. We didn't do that. We always said, listen, our revenue is all based on Patreon and getting the money into the program.
Yeah, that's same with, I think, pretty much everyone, because it's actually illegal for you to sell it unless you have the license. So
yeah, well, I mean, sometimes people get a kickback from it and whatever, and it's fine. It's like the agreement whoever has they have with the retailer. But for what we always wanted to do is like, how can we focus on building the program versus anything else? But it is to the point now where there are a lot of content creators, and there are a lot of people that are trying to get in this space. And one of the only ways that you can kind of make yourself a little bit differentiated is like, hey, I've got a single barrel pick with my club's name on it, or my media entity property's name on it. And that gives them a little bit of, I don't know, maybe it's like they feel a sense of pride with it. But at the same exact time, you are going to see the overcrowding of people trying to get into this, and more retailers are going to start saying no and trying to figure out exactly how you're going to do it. So I would say that if you are a club going into this, it's always trying to make sure that you figure out what is the appetite of your members, or if you're a media entity, what's the appetite of your members? Because if you can always put out a poll and say, hey, who would buy a bottle of this at $89.99, and you have 200 people say in. Well, just don't forget about the rule of attrition, that probably about 25 to 50% of those people will not be back for the actual buy phase of it. So know that you're going to be stuck somewhere north of like 50 to 80 bottles.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting, like, I'm so torn, and I know what Fred's saying, and yeah, I've seen like the small regional clubs really struggle. Two, I just don't think they understand the business side of things. Like, oh, this liquor store will bring on this barrel pick, they can sell like, well, whatever. But it's like, no, you have to make sure that your club is going to buy, or these retailers aren't going to partner with you, or they may do one, but then you're dead to them after that. But with that, I see still like, Bruzel picks,
he's an animal.
Junkies, the ADHD, the average drinker, all these YouTubers and Mash and Drum, Jason, Chad, and them, they still consistently sell. Like, there's still like an appetite, there. And so I don't know. It's like, I think too, it depends how long your group's been around,
Right.
Because if you're like just into it and new, and you have new fans, obviously they haven't had single barrel picks, you're going to have a nice runway. But at some point, if you don't grow your audience, the same people aren't going to continue to buy. And that's where you have to like be careful that you're not just flooding your same fans over and over. And we not intentionally, just we thought the demand was there. People, because every pick we were doing was selling out, within
Minutes,
days,
yeah.
minutes. And then all of a sudden it just happened overnight. And the thing is, you picked those barrels like 6 months ago to a year, and then you still got them. And it was like, we just didn't know until it was too late.
Yeah. It happens. I guess the other thing that we'll see what's going to happen now is like, now that maybe this single barrel, and I'd love to get your all's opinion too. Do you think there's still like a single barrel bloat, or do you think it's starting to get back to maybe a little bit of a normalization? We're not going to say where we were in like 2012, 2014 timeframe, but
no, I
maybe
think,
like 2019 to 2018.
I think there's going to be, I think there's the dozen that Ryan mentioned, going to be fine. Club Marzipan's going to be fine. The Dallas Bourbon Club, the Bourbon Club of Arkansas, going to be fine because they sell through. They push their barrels, but it's over for. I think it's completely over for these like small regional clubs or these new creators. I just don't think they're going to find retailers that are going to partner with them. I think this is a weird analogy, but it's something that I can speak to, and I hopefully can make it relate. But it's like being an author, and like being a new author, you're not going to get Penguin, you're not going to get Random House. You're going to have to prove that you have an audience and that you can sell books in order to get one of those big companies. And I just don't think that retailers can actually afford to take a risk on a club that doesn't have an audience. I mean, even when Blake doesn't take a barrel on, I have to prove to a new to me retailer that Club Marzipan will buy through. Like, I have to prove it. Like, it's not even a sure thing. It is, they are hurting. That's the part of the equation of people not drinking as much that we're not talking about. We've talked, in the news cycles, we've talked about Las Vegas is down, clubs are down, bars are down, but the retailers are hurting. Fortunately, some of them can sell 5-hour energy and cigarettes, so they're, they can stay afloat. But when it comes to some of these sales, they're not there.
I guess another question I want to kind of talk about, maybe another angle here, is price, right? The cost of a single barrel has gone up exponentially over the past couple of years. And
yeah.
I mean, we can talk about inflation, and obviously prices for everything have gone up. Even a pound of ground beef has gone up at your grocery store. But when you started, I think the easiest bear to poke on this one is Four Roses. Back when we first started, I think it was $59.99 for a single barrel, and I think now it's $99.99, maybe north of $100. And maybe they still don't have a problem selling it, but to go from that type of price hike over the span of just like 5 years, I think that would shy people away from it. I think Russell's is still north of, maybe it's $79.99 now, when it used to be $49.99. So I think this has some sort of real effect on the bigger distilleries being able to sell through, or being able to potentially sell through enough of this the way it is. Maker's Mark was a great example that you brought up earlier, but I think their prices stayed pretty consistent. But the difference between Maker's Mark and everybody else is that they're kind of a dime a dozen. Like, you can go and get a bottle of Maker's Mark Private Select almost anywhere, versus a lot of these that are maybe a little bit more difficult to find. But want to kind of get your all's thoughts on pricing here and how that's shifted.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt Four Roses, for example, I love Four Roses. At $60, it's a great value. When you're getting to 100, I'm like, it's the single barrel picks are great, but I don't know if they're that great. And so then you see it with, Willet too. Like,
I think 80 is probably a healthy margin of where they should be.
Yeah, I think, and that's, any south of 80 is appropriate. But, Willet picks, which were crazy. I mean, they were $500-$600, and they've kind of gone down to what, $300 or $400 now. But still at that price level,
let's remember where they were at. Right. Like, you're talking $80 a bottle.
Yeah, correct.
It's kind of where
used
they
to be
were.
$10 a year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and I know why Drew and them did it, because like they were selling them for that, and then the retailer would sell them for
$400,
$500-$600, and so he was like, "Well, I'm not going to let you all get all the margin. I'm going to get some of this too." But too, with there's economic pressures now, it's harder to be like, I could go grab that Four Roses at $59.99 and be like, this is pretty solid for that price. When it gets to $100, it's got to be like pretty damn special to do that. And it's just a fatigue thing too. It's like, how many Four Roses picks can I buy at $99 a piece? I can't buy all 10 recipes.
Well, I mean, I could buy all 10, but then I'd probably want to stop after that for a little bit.
Yeah.
So something you said, Ryan, it has to be pretty special. And I think that is to me, that is where the price can go up. I just had a club pick go on Club Marzipan. It was 172 proof, hazmat, sold out $250, and that went like that. And that was special to people who like hazmat. When it comes to Russell's, people who are Camp Nelson fans, if you get a Camp Nelson warehouse, and they're all up on it. I just think it's what can be special. I don't see a lot of special that's out there, and we talked about it. You hit the nail on the head, Ryan, when you said everything's kind of become the same. Here's 3 barrels. Let's rotate you through. Here's a tour. Okay, and here's a sticker. It's just, you don't. And the people who go on the barrel picks, they don't just want a bottle. They want a case. I had a guy who wanted to buy half a barrel, and I was like, well, you know what? Fuck it.
Why not?
Why not? Like, I got to make sure this barrel sells through. And I think it's put me in an uncomfortable position, because I have never been about selling whiskey. I've never been about that. I've been about, I like something. I've been about telling the story of something. And I find myself in a position now where I'm talking to the distillers and the retailers, and they're like, hey, what can you do to make sure that we sell these barrels? And I'm like, it's kind of not my job. And then, they put it back to me like, well, it's for your club. So it kind of is. And I'm like, I'm uncomfortable about it. And I feel like it's not something I enjoy. I don't like selling things.
It's feedback that we've gotten over the years too.
Yeah.
Because Jason from Mash and Drum does a very good job, and he'll go on his lives on YouTube and talk about the picks that he's doing, what he's bringing in, and he's doing his best to continually grow that club and grow that audience. But
I'm wearing his hat right now. Matter of fact,
see, that's why it kind of was top of mind.
Mm.
But that is definitely something that I've kind of had that feeling too. It's kind of like, oh, I don't want to go and try to sell something that, I'm like, I've got my hands in 42 different places. If the only thing that I made my money off of was a barrel pick club, then yeah, I'd probably put a ton more time into it. But
that's right.
There's only so much time that is available to me. And if I got to go and help somebody else make money,
Mm-hmm.
that's a little bit different.
Yeah. And what I have found is all it really takes for me is to really describe the barrel and get my tasting notes a little bit more, because I've been bad about just like, here's the barrel. We're like, well, what's in it? What's it taste like? I don't remember my notes.
Yeah.
I can't find them.
I know. It's tough.
It's even come from the retail side. It's like, even if they want to take a chance, like on bringing your barrel in, they're like, well, I'll bring it in, but what are you going to do to help sell it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, isn't that part of the deal? That's why you get your margin. But I get it. They don't want to just put it out there and it just sit, and then they have to go sell it and produce. So a lot of times I'm like, well, can you come do a bottle signing?
It's like everything
do an
else.
in-store tasting or this or that.
Everybody wants the easy way out, and it's understandable. Like, they don't want to do more work than that's necessary for them to make the money they want to get out of it.
Yeah. It's it is also, I would also throw this out, is I'm very thankful that when I do a barrel pick, it's always fun. But sometimes when I have these, like, I got into bourbon because it's fun. I enjoy it. but I can see a path where this stuff just stops being fun. There's a path here where it's just about like you're going back and forth with the distiller and the retailer. Like, man, I'm on a barrel pick. I get to taste 10 barrels. I want 3 of them. I want 3 of them to be able to be available for my friends and club and all that. And they're like, well, what are you going to do here? And what are you going to do that? And I'm like, the minute that starts happening, I'm probably going to just pull the plug. I'm like, I ain't doing this shit anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's not fun. And I'm not out here. I don't want to be out here, trying to justify, why I'm in this warehouse, to pick a barrel for a club that means a lot to me. We'll just start doing the samples, virtually and doing them one by one. But I think the distillers and the retailers have got to realize that these are the same people. Okay, so these are the same people that brought you to the dance, and the dance is over, and they're still hanging out afterward. And if you are not willing to find a way to take care of people who will buy a case of your product in the moment, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them. And if you don't take care of these clubs, even the small regional ones, it's going to make those, those quarterly meetings a lot harder for you.
I still feel that, I don't know. And it's like, I'm pointing the blame back at myself too, because it still feels that as the club manager, the person picking it, there is a shadow of responsibility of where it is still my job to make sure it sells, to make sure that the retailer isn't stuck, with a bad $10,000 investment in me. Because if that happens, then that's the last time that they're going to bring in a barrel pick from me. And so I've got to make sure that I'm holding up my end of the bargain to make that happen. And for me, it's just a balance of time and where do I want to spend my time? That's probably what it comes down to, is where do I want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to do this? No. Should I be doing it? Yeah, probably. But it's just, that's not what I would rather be doing with my time. I'd rather be focusing on other ways to grow the show, or find new topics, or do whatever 2,000 things that we have going on the pursuit side of things. But that's my own personal thing. Let's kind of focus this back onto single barrels and sort of like where we see the focus and things of shifting. Do you all feel that now, if we do see this balloon contracting a little bit, we're definitely saw, at least during the flip side, the past the COVID side, that there weren't a lot of barrels being picked by NDPs or by smaller craft distillers because the appetite really wasn't there. Do you see that potentially continuing to contract a little bit, or do you think it's going to start ballooning out even once again, knowing that maybe the selection always isn't there for Four Roses because it's too high, or because there's already too much Maker's Mark and people are trying to search for something different?
Yeah, I think that's where a small upstart brand or an NDP has an advantage, because you can kind of roll out that red carpet, give people a great experience, give them something interesting and unique. And that's where I've seen, Kentucky's different because we're around all these distillers and they're depressed and they're just bitching all the time about. But when you travel the market and you go out into places, there's still like a lot of new and exciting energy in the bourbon world. And, when we go to DC or Maryland, or when I was down in Franklin, Tennessee, even there, like when there's still just so many new people, and that might not be able to go get a connection to get into Four Roses or Russell's, but they can call a Pursuit and be like, oh, this is where here's my in as a group, and I can really prove my, just like us proving ourselves to them, they can prove themselves to their audience and fan that I can bring a really interesting, unique single barrel. And I think that's why, Rare Character's done so well, because it was like, well, can't get a Willet. Here's the
next best
here's
thing
the
with
next
wax
best
on
thing.
it.
Yeah.
And another thing that I think hurts barrel picks is they take too long to get the actual bottle, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm awful at remembering my tasting notes or finding them. I'm not as organized as you, Kenny. I need to work on that.
Oh, it's Evernote. That's what I use.
But and I used to use that for a book. Anyway, Natural Barrel Company, I think, has done a great job of
Yeah.
saying like, you pick your barrel and have it the next day. I think if there was an avenue for that, and people sold it through their gift shops like Nashville Barrel Company did, to me, and this goes back to the industry a little bit, and if those distilleries could ship to people who were not able to be there on site, to me that's the creme de la creme. And I know New Riff does that. I know there's a lot of distilleries that will work with you to pick on site and find a way to ship it to you.
You can bottle with us same day.
Yeah. I mean,
We
I
did one
just
of those
think
Friday.
I think that is where things need to go to maintain that enthusiasm from the brands.
Isn't that what Knob Creek used to do?
Back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. You could just go pick a barrel of Knob Creek, and by the time you left lunch, it was in cases ready to go.
Yeah. Probably not the actual barrel that you picked, but I'm kidding.
we had cases available.
I'm joking. It's not true. I remember those days. They would give you, Knob Creek would give you like a big giant like coffee cup, kind of like clear coffee cup. And you'd stick it in there as the barrel was dripping out. You'd sip it right out of the barrel. Man, that was some great whiskey. But I think that the barrel process does need retooled. I am discouraged on the business side of things, and kind of like I was saying, like, to me, the fun is teetering a little bit for those who pick barrels a lot, and I think one of the nice fixes to that is kind of like what Mike has done at Nashville Barrel Company. There's something cool about picking the barrel and being able to have it very quickly after.
No, that's what we even. Yeah, like I said, we'll let you sit there and bottle it that afternoon, and you can get your hands on it, and you can be
Except
the
Ryan, right, he'll steal your barrel.
He will be stealing your barrels.
He stole my barrel.
If you pick too many of them, he's gonna pull
Like
back.
I
He's gonna
said,
pull back on you.
Jason stole your barrel.
Oh, it's Jason
Yeah.
from Mash and Drum?
Yeah. Well, he was with the group that picked. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's with the group. It's funny. Like I did a turkey pick right after him. I was like, "Oh, your barrel sucks." I was messing with him.
The one thing I do love about this is, we've kind of talked about the good and the bad with single barrels, but the thing is that as whiskey enthusiasts, as bourbon geeks, like this is our home turf. Like, we love single barrels. I don't think this trend is going to die. I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
It's going to get innovated.
It's going to get innovated. I think people are going to be a little bit more picky and choosy about where they spend their money. And it's like, and I think, not to, again, beat our chest a little bit more here, is that, on the innovation side, not to say anything about Heaven Hill or Knob Creek, but, you've done Elijah Craig barrel picks, and you've done Knob Creek, and you're tasting barrels of the same exact mash bill that have been sitting next to each other, and you're splitting hairs and finding small differences about like why this one's better than this one, versus if you go to whether it's a Pursuit with our double oak, where there's just like 12 different state profiles and everything's completely different. You go to River Roots and you've got 8 different mash bills you can pick from. There's a lot of variability that I think people are looking for, and it's not just going to be trying to find small differences there.
Yep. Totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, that is going to be something that we'll come back on from a year from now and figure out how right were we, or how wrong were we.
This was a loaded show, man.
Yeah.
This was big.
Yeah. Well, that is talking about single barrels, right? It's would you say, Ryan, it was always the perfect product because
it is the perfect product? Because everyone's different, everyone's unique, and they can't be replicated. And that's creates that tension with humans, and that's what they like, is that scarcity.
America.
Gotta go find it.
Yep.
Well, if you do like the show, you want to help support us, you can do it for as little as $5 a month through patreon.com/bourbonpursuit. If you also like a lot of things that we say and you like what we hear, share it with a friend, write a review, go buy one of Fred's books.
Or if you want to say fuck Fred.
You know what? You can buy the book and write fuck Fred.
Yeah, you can do it right there in the hardcover side of things. But yeah, also make sure, again, if you do like the show, you do want to support us, you can do it through a multitude of different ways. But with that, cheers, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Toodles.